right, hello and everybody to our second webinar series about cellular and GNSS technologies. My name is Luisa Letzkus. I'm Corporate Product Manager at Rutronik within the wireless team. And today's topic is about IoT terminals and gateways. And we are hosting this together with our supplier Telit Cinterion. And therefore, I'm very happy to introduce Adam Kassin, Senior Architecture Director at Telit Cinterion, who will give us insights about the market trends, the positioning and vision of Telit Cinterion, and compares modules versus terminals. Afterwards, he will give you a device overview and will provide you exclusive insights in the new product portfolios of certified module boards within the new product line IoT solutions at Telit Cinterion. Fabio Norfo will be his assistant. He is sales director in the IoT solutions department and will support him by answering your questions. So before handing over to Adam, I'd like to shortly give you an overview of the schedule. So the whole webinar will be 1 hour. Adam will do his presentation about 45 minutes. And then during the webinar, you can always type in your questions in the Q&A comment field. And afterwards, we were happy to answer them. The whole webinar will be recorded, and afterwards you will receive an email with a link to the on-demand video as well as to the presentation slides, and it will also be uploaded on YouTube and on our Rutronik landing page. Yeah, so that's from my side. Now, Adam, the stage is yours.
Thanks,
and
Luisa.
Enjoy, everybody, the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can all see this presentation on the screen. So, as Luisa said, I'm going to try and explain to you today what our IoT solutions portfolio looks like from a finished device perspective. So, essentially, IoT Solutions division of Telit is a brand new division. You may not have heard of it. So we specialize in IoT solutions in ODM products. We can do customized designs. We can do manufacturing services, approval services. And of course, as part of that, that now encompasses what was the Cinterion product line of terminals. And we are, of course, developing some new gateway products and some new IoT certified modules, as Luisa intimated. So I'm going to run through this. So the agenda, we're going to go through position and vision of Telit. We're going to talk about the modules and terminal options, a gateway overview of our products, something called the CMB 100, exciting, and the ATD 551 tracking device that we've also developed that could be of great interest. So positioning and vision, Telit, as you may have seen in the recent releases of the global IoT module players, is the largest Western player. Of course, China as a region is as big as the rest of the world again. So the Chinese vendors do tend to dominate. However, when we look at the Western players, companies that are incorporated outside of China, Telit Cinterion is the biggest of the Western vendors. We aim to be a trusted partner and advisor for the mission critical Internet of Things and Internet of Industry. And we aim to be an end-to-end enabler. What does this mean? So we don't want to be just a module vendor. You may or may not know that we also have connectivity solutions. We have platform services. And of course, we've got the IoT solutions team. So we can now do a true end-to-end service for you, irrespective of what your capabilities are as a business. You can pick and choose any element of that you like and utilize our services to the best effect. We're a technology and security leader with demonstrated commitment to innovation and quality, and we have a deep commitment to sustainability and social responsibility. So let's get into the meat of it, modules and terminals. So you guys have an option, which is quite nice. Many of you know that we've been making modules for a very, very, very long time, longer than I've been in the industry, I think. But we also make terminals, which are essentially boxed products. These are kind of finished devices, which can really be a turnkey enabler for IoT solutions. So generally, there are factors that influence an IoT project. You've got cost, you've got schedule, you've got regulatory compliance, and of course, performance needs. Embarking on a full design can be quite daunting. It is, of course, the most flexible way to ensure that whatever it is you're designing meets the needs of the application 100%. But delays are inevitable in every project. And of course, you have to weigh up the pros and cons of whether it's better to develop something. We all know developing something can take 12 to 18 months. Going through the validation process, manufacturing processes, certification, regulatory, and this is quite a complex scenario. However, if the window for launching that product is missed, and thereby you miss the opportunity to maximize your sales and return on investment, then it could mean that using something off the shelf might be a little more beneficial, although more costly, maybe not the TCO answer that you're looking for, but maybe using a box solution like a terminal or a gateway could enable you to address the market needs in a faster sense. And then in the background, you could develop your product. So there may not be as much flexibility in these devices when it comes to interfaces. You've got, RS-232, you've got USB, RS-485, SPI. I mean, the interface list is quite rich. However, it may well be that your application needs something different. But what we find is that these interfaces do tend to answer the majority of IoT systems when it comes to how you interface a cellular device to them. So these terminals can be very, very turnkey. You can get them up and running in an afternoon. Just plug it in and switch it on. Clues in the name, right? However, for projects that need something a little bit more niche, we do have a bit of a middle ground. And, I refer to these as the naked terminals. So where a terminal is a box product, so it actually looks like a finished device. It even comes in a really fancy cardboard box. It looks like you've just bought it off of Amazon. The CMB 100 series, conversely, is a bit more like a module. However, it's approved to the same level as a terminal, meaning that you can interface this to your application and utilize more of the module's interface capability. So maybe there's some additional interfacing available on the device, which the terminal doesn't present, or maybe you have size constraints. But what this allows you to do ultimately is deliver a solution with a module, with a cost-effective module inside, which is pre-certified, especially for the US markets. Of course, the final option is to use a module down. I've worked on thousands of projects with clients over the last 25 years. This can take, as I say, a variety of timescales. However, it does deliver the most cost-effective, and it delivers the best ultimate and overall return on investment. Let's talk about terminals and gateways. So here on the screen, you can see the portfolio of devices that we have available. We start off with the EG form factor of terminal. So this is the smallest form factor, and this harks back to the Cinterion BGS2 or BGS3 terminals. These devices are these days Cat-M and narrowband with 2G fallback, so they can utilize the latest LPWA infrastructures, but they still carry the same terminal form factor of yesteryear, meaning that when you're looking to do an upgrade on an existing, maybe you have a BGS2 terminal already in the field, you can relatively seamlessly add a new terminal to that device. The AT commands will remain the same, the form factor remains the same, as does the interfacing and power supply. So this means that you've got a really nice turnkey solution for ensuring your devices continue to connect into the future. We then move on to the SG form factor. So the SG form factor is a slightly bigger terminal form factor. And what this does is it affords us the ability to enhance the interface capability. So we add a 20-way connector, which brings out more of the module's interfaces. And what this means is that you can ultimately interface this to a wider variety of subsystems. You may want to take advantage of USB or SPI, I2C, GPIOs. These are all available on these devices. And we have a family of these. So, start with the Cat-M, narrowband, 2G fallback, and then, of course, we move through into the full-blown red-blooded Cat-4 with 2G, 3G fallback. And then in this form factor, we have a variety of flavors, including LAN interface, USB, serial RS485. So it really is quite a rich portfolio. Moving forwards, for those that wish to embark on a more broadband approach, we have the new CMT 700 in both a LAN and a USB flavor. This provides the ability to connect to the very latest 5G infrastructure. So this can be public or private, but this is based on our FN990A28, which is an SDX62 chipset. This gives you gigabit speeds, LAN interface, power over Ethernet interface. It really is quite a nice turnkey solution for those who wish to add either 5G failover to an existing communication system, or maybe you want to use 5G as the primary communication system. So, time to market. This shouldn't be underestimated. Time to market is often more important than actually having something that 100% meets the brief. And what the gateways and terminals afford you is the ability to plug and play cellular into ultimately any subsystem. These devices also contain some programming capability. So even if the system you're attaching them to maybe doesn't have the ability to send AT commands or the knowledge to drive a cellular modem, you can actually write an application into the module which can automate this function. So it really does give you a nice flexible approach to communication over ultimately a more futuristic path than the device that was ever intended to use. In 2022, 7 of our top 10 accounts acquired by distribution were actually terminals customers. So with Rutronik, you're in super safe hands when it comes to this type of technology. It's exactly the sweet spot for the customer base. And of course, we work with Rutronik to ensure that all the ancillary components, the 20-way connector, the antennas, any power supplies, anything else can all be acquired via them. So you do get a very turnkey solution when it comes to these products. So let's talk in a little bit more detail about the devices themselves. So the EGX81 and 82 products, you can see on the screen, these are our small form factor. So these are 80 by 55 by 23 millimeters, excluding the connectors. They both support LTE Cat-M, and you have the option of 2G fallback. As I mentioned, you have the Cinterion IoT SDK, which allows you to write software inside the device. And these products are globally certified, meaning that you can deploy immediately without having to go through the rigmarole of device certification. These products can also be supplied and have already been verified and tested with our Telit Next connectivity. And of course, because they are Cinterion products, they contain eSIM capability as well. So we can apply the Telit Next connectivity inside these products. You have a secure trusted identity management, and of course you've got secure boot, TLS, DTLS, all the protocols and security layers that your application may well be looking for to ensure that your pedigree of device and security of your product is maintained. The temperature spec -30 to 75 is very generous, and of course these devices can be powered by a USB, so you don't need to worry too much about external power supplies. If you've got a USB subsystem, maybe Linux or Android or something like that, Windows, you can just use a USB interface, an antenna interface, and a SIM card. That's all these products really, really need. We move on to the SGX31. So very much like the previous product, this is a Cat-M narrowband with 2G fallback, slightly bigger form factor. And of course, because it's a newer generation product, it also brings out the additional antenna interface for GNSS, because this is supported inherently by the Qualcomm 9205 chipset module that's inside. So you can use this for some rudimentary telemetry tracking type applications. Again, you've got the Cinterion SDK, but you've also got this 20-way connector. This product's a larger form factor at 113 by 75 mil. So it's not quite as neat as the previous. However, being bigger, it does give you this ability to connect via the 20-way interface, which of course gives you a lot more industrial connections possible. SGL81, so this is kind of the flagship. So when it comes to terminals, we all know that Cat-M narrowband technologies perhaps are a little bit of a challenge when it comes to finding roaming partners in certain territories, making sure that roaming agreements don't end up being lost, meaning devices have to go back to 2G in the end, which is a technology that nobody really should be relying on these days. 4 is pretty safe. It's essentially mobile phone technology, meaning that any SIM card vendor can provide you with a roaming agreement across every MNO in a country, usually, to provide connectivity. So when it comes to resilience and reliability of connection and pure scope and span of connectivity, Cat4 really does give you everything. It gives you high bandwidth if you need it. You can also use it in low bandwidth applications, of course. You just won't be working it quite as hard. It has 2G and 3G fallback, so of course you get that resilience and failover. And this particular device comes in a variety of flavors, including USB with RS-232. We can also supply it with RS-485 if you're connecting it to a PLC or something like that. We have LAN interface, so this can be used as a kind of essentially a failover device. Connect it straight into a Windows PC if you like, and it appears as a network device, and you can use the connectivity. And it supports power over Ethernet, meaning you can create a very neat installation solution with this. Typical applications, video surveillance, of course, anything that needs the slightly higher bandwidth of Cat4, remote monitoring and diagnostics and Industry 4.0 obviously fall into the frame as well. Now, this is a new product. So the previous devices that we spoke about have come from the Cinterion world that we acquired nearly 2 years ago. And of course, for those that have worked with Cinterion in the past, they'll be, mainstays and relatively well known. This device is not so well known because it's something that we actually have only just developed. So this is kind of hot off the press. You're not going to find it anywhere if you do a Google search. This is our CMT 700. And this, as I said in the intro, is based on a FN990 A28, which is a Qualcomm SDX62 chipset-based 5G module with LTE fallback. The idea of this product is that it's, again, globally certified, but can provide a 5G cellular bridge to any LAN or USB-based subsystem. Now, the LAN interface supports basic LAN, so 100,000 base T, but also supports power over Ethernet, meaning that you can interface this to something like a CCTV system that supports power over Ethernet, something like that. So you can really minimize the amount of cabling required. So this product is available now. Stock them on the shelf. Rutronik can stock them on the shelf. Of course, you can take advantage of the enhanced mobile broadband capability of 5G. And as I said, it can be used for either failover of an existing system, or it can be used as the primary communications mechanism. I mean, you can see this product potentially finding its way onto a factory floor where maybe you've got a forward-thinking Industry 4.0 deployment and you want to connect your robots not via cable, but maybe you want to take advantage of the vertical LAN, maybe with a private 5G infrastructure within the factory floor. Of course, this product is perfectly suited. So it can interface via Ethernet just as the current products do, but provide you with that connectivity to the 5G world. The documentation is available on our website. So it's surprising how many people don't know this. You can go on the Telit website. Anybody can go on the Telit website and you can go to download zone and you can register for access. Okay, so the registration tends to go via our marketing team and the local RSD wherever you're based, but we don't tend to reject applications for access unless, of course, it's from our competition. So by all means, please do go on the Telit website, go to the download zone and register for access. Here you're going to find all of that really tasty documentation for how to integrate these products. Of course, our entire cellular modules, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GNSS, everything is in there. So it really is the repository for the meat of our data sheets and application notes. So I do encourage you to go to our download zone and register for access if you haven't already. So let's talk a little bit about pre-certified modules. So again, this is something that's super duper new. Okay, so developing with a module, as I mentioned before, can be quite time consuming. But of course, one of the big things about developing with a module, whilst we have gone through probably between $250,000 and $500,000 worth of approvals on that device, there is still a requirement for you, the integrator, to go through some approvals for your target market. So you'll have heard of, RED certification, FCC. There's a new UKCA. Don't talk about Brexit. You've got RCM in Australia. You've got approvals down in Latin America. So depending on where you're planning on deploying, you're going to have to put your device through some sort of regulatory approval to ensure that it works in harmony with other devices in the market. Now, the US is quite a strict place when it comes to these approvals. And generally speaking, there's a multitude of trains of thought when it comes to approvals. Some people think if you buy a mini PCIe card or an M.2 card, well, hey, it's got an FCC, I can just reuse that, right? Kind of not. There are certain elements of the FCC that you would have to retest. You can't just reuse an FCC ID in its entirety. Likewise with a module, we have an FCC ID on our module, but you can't just reuse it and say that you now conform to the approvals needs. You have to go through additional testing. Maybe this is TRP and TIS. Maybe there's some EMC. Whatever that looks like, it ultimately ends up costing time and money. And if you're developing an application, maybe you develop something for the European market, and you're looking at going into the US with your device, it can be a very costly thing to integrate a module or even a mini PCIe card into this product and then try and sell it into the US, because you've got to go through approvals whether you sell one or a million. The CMB 100 could be the answer to some of these challenges. So let's go into a little bit of detail on this. So these are the next generation of smart gateway. They're based on our popular 910 form factor, which is either 28 by 28 or 29 by 29 mil. Not too much about that extra millimeter. It just affords us some extra RF performance when it comes to the higher capability devices like maybe Cat4 Global or 5G RedCap and these sorts of technologies. But ultimately, this device is a PCB with a 910 module, with a SIM card holder or a chip SIM, and a 20-way connector and some power conditioning and some nice neat UFL connectors for your antennas. What it means is that you can add cellular to pretty much anything. This isn't a big bulky terminal. These PCBs are pretty small, and they are designed to go inside your own enclosure and yet still maintain an end device certification level. And this is providing you use the same antenna, well, not the same antenna, but the same specification of antenna. So, 3 dBIC, ultimately there's going to be a specification around the antenna that has to be used. You won't need to go through any SIM testing because the SIM holder's on board. Everything else ultimately is taken care of. So these things have FCC, they've PTCRB, AT&T, Verizon certs. You can literally put this thing inside your product and go to market with it without having to go through any additional approvals costs. When it comes to interfacing and capabilities, we have variants for Cat-M, narrowband 2G, we have Cat1 Global, we have Cat4 Global with fallback, and of course we've got Cat1 Biz as well, and we have a RedCap version coming. 5G RedCap, if you don't already know, is a release 17 specification for 5G. Ultimately, it allows a device to utilize the 5G new radio infrastructure, but doesn't carry the same bandwidth capabilities as a full red-blooded 5G product, like a smartphone or maybe one of our FN990 products. So it isn't gigabit capable. It's more like a Cat4 solution. So it's a lower bandwidth, reduced antenna requirements, certainly more applicable for IoT applications. And of course, commercially, it's more attractive as well. So 5G RedCap's one to look out for, but be advised, you need to make sure the network supports it before you try and deploy it, because most of them don't at the moment. So look out for that one. So these devices can help mitigate costs associated with development, the cost of certification, the timescales, the risks associated with implementing LTE devices inside the product, respins, retrofits, and time to market. So in the end, this product can be quite attractive for people who are looking for a more turnkey solution, maybe don't want a boxed product like a terminal or gateway, but certainly are looking to add something a little bit cellular to their device. We've got a development kit for this product. So the CMB100 development kit's very versatile. So as you can see in the image, the CMB100 is inverted and plugged onto the PCB right next to the USB-C connector to the right-hand side. You can see here that there are 3 microbus interfaces available on this rapid development kit, and this really does allow you to add, any of the 1,500 microbus clipboards that are available with, maybe additional wireless capability, maybe GNSS, maybe you want to add sensors, whatever it is you're looking to do. When it comes to rapid prototyping, this really does allow you to put together the bones of whatever it is you're looking to make in what ultimately and weirdly, because the cellular device is end certified, it's pretty much a deployable product. So, it's kind of a bit more than a prototype. We've integrated on this board an STM32 processor, so highly popular processor technology, meaning that you can write applications on this using whatever IDEs and tools that you probably have available already, and of course, C programmers that you already have on your books. There are SPI I2C interfaces to the microbus expansion slots, and of course, you've got optional CAN transceiver, NOR flash IMU, and of course the GPIOs are mapped to the CMB100 as well. So you've got additional interfacing available outside of these microclick interfaces too. As I mentioned, there are 1,500 boards available through microclick, and these are all available through distribution. You can literally make millions and millions of combinations of whatever IoT device it is you're looking to generate before you even pick up the wrong end of a soldering iron. Don't do that. So ultimately, as a proof of concept and almost a semi-productionable device, this interface is very, very rich and powerful. So let's go a little bit into detail on the dev kit features. You can see here the CMB100. You've got USB to the MCU, USB to the modem, USB-C interfaces. You've got battery connectors, so if you want to have this independently powered via a lithium polymer battery, there's a charging circuit on board. You've also got a DC power interface as well, so if you want to power from a good old-fashioned 12-volt plug top power supply, then you can do that. MCU programming header, so you can program the STM32. So in the end, this is a complete subsystem for you to begin development with, available through Rutronik, as on the microclick boards. You can have it in a multitude of operating modes. So if you want to control it through a laptop or PC to the cellular modem, you can do that. But if you want to have it, host controlled by the 32-bit MCU on board, then you can do that as well. So massively, massively versatile. We have some documentation available. I'll go into that in a second, but we have video guides, and of course we've got STM Cube sample projects as well. The documentation and video guides, these are kind of works in progress at the moment. So some are available, some are not. Stay in touch and keep your eyes peeled, but probably most importantly, get signed up to the download zone, because this is where you're going to find this stuff. But we have the CMB100 product brief, quick start guides, the hardware user guide, dev kit, firmware, the CMB video guide. I think we're just waiting for voiceover on that one. You may recognize the voice that does it. But yeah, we try and ensure that whatever integration materials are required to make the evaluation of the CMB 100 as seamless as possible are provided to you. The elevation, invisible intelligence. So timescales. So the CMB 100, as I mentioned before, is coming out in a variety of flavors. The first one, which is the Cat-M narrowband with 2G fallback, is due out in Q4, which is now-ish. I'm sure we'll see that hitting the shelves very shortly. The next version of that that's going to be available is the Cat 4. So this is probably the broadest scope when it comes to communication capability with Cat 4, 2G and 3G fallback, GNSS capability on board because it uses the Qualcomm 9207 chipset. So this, if you're going to use one module to try and evaluate globally, is probably your best bet. If you're looking at utilizing Cat-M or narrowband technology specifically, then obviously go for the Cat-M narrowband version. The next version that's going to be released is the Cat 1 Biz Global, and this is due out towards the end of this year. So it's going to be between Q4 and Q1. So, you know, you can look out for that one in 2025 early on. Cat 1 Biz is a relatively new specification when it comes to LTE technology. And what it does is it takes the standard LTE 4G Cat 1 that we all know. And what it does is it says, well, actually, most people take a Cat 1 modem and they do what they did with the 3G modem, which had two RF interfaces. Of course, LTE Cat 1 has two RF interfaces as well. And actually, you only use one of them. And this is an incredibly popular way of working with LTE Cat 1 devices. And some people do it with Cat 4 devices as well, although there's a bigger problem there when it comes to throughput capability. But with Cat 1, having a single antenna interface actually doesn't affect the throughput. All it does is ultimately affect the maybe some of the signaling, but because it's more receive diversity than anything else, you get almost no impact to the operation of the LTE Cat 1 device. And outside of MNO requirements, so certainly these have now become a lot more relaxed when it comes to AT&T and Verizon in the US, Telstra in Australia. I think they're still a bit funny about it, that they need you to have two RF connections to your LTE Cat 1 device. They don't tend to give you much lenience when it comes to that. But certainly AT&T, Verizon have become much more lenient when it comes to that. Europe's always been a bit of a Wild West. The MNOs have never, ever bothered about checking how many antennas you connect to your LTE Cat 1 device. So what it means is that chipset vendors have now developed something called Cat 1 Biz. The Biz is essentially Latin for again, and it's the same signaling capability as Cat 1. So it's 5 meg up and 10 meg down, but it only has one RF path. And this really does reduce costs when it comes to chipsets. And ultimately the costs that we leverage against modules to you guys. So LTE Cat 1 has become very, very much more cost effective. 5G RedCap's due out next. This is, again, as I said before, release 17. And capable of talking to 5G infrastructure. So this is the new radio infrastructure that's being deployed around the world now. You just need to make sure that your network operator actually supports RedCap. And then, of course, we've got an ME310M1 version, Cat-M and narrowband. This is a new chipset from Sony Altair, and a slightly different form factor of the module as well. So it's going to ultimately give you the same sort of capability as the earlier release Cat-M and narrowband, just with no 2G fallback, maybe a few additional interfaces, but very importantly, some capability around NTN, which is non-terrestrial satellite network technology as well. So the CMB 100 demo, we've created a demo to showcase the CMB 100 and the dev kit. This includes a CMB 100 and 3 microclick boards, so temperature, humidity, accelerometer, and OLED. So the demo will allow a user to view cellular information, temperature, humidity, accelerometer data, battery charging, and of course it can all be displayed on the local OLED display, or passed to the Telit DeviceWise cloud. So for those who haven't heard of DeviceWise is our cloud service that we run. So this demo is available to load into your CMB 100 dev kit. It's quite a nice demo to get up and running with. And of course, it utilizes the ever popular micro clipboard. So something that you can definitely lay your hands on. So let's talk a little around the asset tracker. So this is something that's totally different for us. So, whilst we've been in the cellular modules game for a long, long time, asset tracking has really been the mainstay of our customers. And, you say, well, you're now trying to take your customers' business. That's not the intention. We are not planning on being a telematics or tracking company. With no desire to be a tracking company. However, what we do see is a lot of companies out there who are tracking companies, running very, very successful tracking companies, fleet management companies, who are using third-party asset tracking hardware in order to realize this. So what we offer is essentially a 99% complete tracking product, which can be skewed to specific demands and requirements for a variety of fleet telematics, vehicle tracking, either consumer or commercial, whatever that looks like, but tailored around your requirements as a fleet tracking company. So the ATD 551, it's a Cat-M narrowband with 2G fallback device. It also has Bluetooth scanning, sensor logging, and alert capability. So this can act as a Bluetooth low energy beacon hub. So we actually have a family of Bluetooth beacons available as well that can be paired with this. So, if you want to relay information through some of these Bluetooth sensor tags, we can do that as well through this terminal. It's user configurable, has embedded processing, so you can essentially skew it to whatever your requirements are. Standard protocol, MQTT, so this can publish essentially to any MQTT broker. You can have real-time or periodic reporting. Of course, depending on how you use it, depends on how long the battery is going to last for inside. It's got a rechargeable lithium-ion battery inside, USB-C interface. It's got location as a service built in, so this can support either indoor and outdoor location services. And of course, you've got an optional external temperature probe as well, which is like a little copper element that protrudes from the side of the box. This is an optional extra on board, but for things like dry and refrigerated supply chain, having the ability to monitor the actual temperature outside of this tracking box is vital. So for temperature control, government legislation around transportation of foods, goods, frozen, refrigerated, medical, you might be looking at drug transportation, anything like that. This is quite a neat product, and I've got one of these devices in my classic car, and certainly I know from personal experience that having reporting 4 times a day in a relatively compromised environment, the battery lasts around about 8 months, which is quite neat. So I don't need to recharge it that often. We pair this with our DeviceWise platform. So DeviceWise is our enterprise grade platform service that we offer, and really this is, as a platform, a hugely feature rich solution, which is enjoyed by pretty much, and not a lot of people know, by pretty much every single automotive manufacturer in North America use DeviceWise on their factory floor to have a twin pair SCADA system to their robots and PLCs, which are actually going into manufacturing vehicles. Of course, for IoT, this can provide an excellent endpoint as well as a cloud-based solution for MQTT. We can support CoAP, so lightweight M2M. We can support HTTP, HTTPS. You can do FTP. So the interfaces into DeviceWise are bountiful. and we can consume data essentially from any device into DeviceWise. So what we've done ultimately is created a system here where we can publish from this ATD tracker over MQTT into DeviceWise, and we've built a neat dashboard in something called DeviceWise View, which is a visualization solution that we provide as well, to give you a real nice snapshot of what this tracking device and its peripherals look like. So you can see here that we monitor temperature, humidity, pressure. There's the accelerometer, so you've got some hysteresis available as well. So you might want to see what the accelerometer has done in the last hour or the last 180 days. You know, it doesn't matter. The information is recorded, stored, logged, and available through DeviceWise. And once the information is in DeviceWise, of course, it can then be pushed and published to any enterprise-grade cloud provider. So the likes of Azure or AWS, or even your own solution, maybe a SAP HANA solution. Maybe this is driving some purchasing decisions. I don't know. But in the end, we can publish the information or any part of the information from this as an insight to any other cloud type system that's out there. So here's another view of those sensors. So you've got temperature, humidity, pressure, light, accelerometer, tilt. You know, in the end, the interfaces are relatively endless when it comes to these types of devices. And if you do have a specific requirement, maybe the ATD 551 does 90% of what you're looking for, but not 100%, then by all means come and have a chat, because our IoT solutions team have got engineers on hand to be able to make those small changes, maybe different sensors, maybe you need a different battery technology, whatever that might be. That's something, of course, that we can address as a customized solution. So I think with that, I say thank you for your time today. I hope the presentation was informative for you, and I will hand back to Louisa, who I think is going to potentially host the Q&As.
Yeah, so thank you, Adam, for the presentation. I think let's directly jump into the Q&A session. We have some questions. Let me start with the first one. Let me see. Cannot open it.
No problem, Luisa. While you are searching for some of the questions, perhaps it's also interesting to note something that Adam mentioned at the very beginning of the presentation, the fact that Telit is also able to provide connectivity, SIM cards, and data plan. So what you have seen this afternoon is a snapshot of what is the current portfolio and what we are cooking for the next quarters. But we have at Telit a long time an offer of a proprietary core network. We are in fact also a mobile virtual network operator that is able to add to the devices itself and to the modules also SIM cards and data plan. And with the acquisition of Cinterion back in 2022, we also added to this I will say rooster, the possibility to have IoT connectivity activation and embedded YUCC options. This is also interesting in case you want or you do not want to bother too much about the technicalities and the coverage of your field products, and instead you want to concentrate on your go-to-market and business. So there is the possibility to leave to Telit virtually everything that is from the model to the connectivity, and you of course realize your own application and all the use cases and scenario that you want to customize to follow your market. I think this is one of the added value of the evolution of Telit in the last, I will say, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. I got the view. So I'm back.
Hey, excellent.
Okay, so the first question is how easy it is to develop an application and load it to the ATD.
Fabio, my glamorous assistant. Do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, thank you. No, in this case, we have some firmware in the device because, as Adam mentioned, there is the possibility we do not want really to enter in this space. So we have a rooted firmware inside that we can customize depending on the needs of the customer. We can also do, as IoT solutions, just to be clear, depending on the business case and the magnitude, we can also do, I would say, a partial semi-custom that is different and able to sense and beacon specific Bluetooth devices that are used by the customer, or even use and change specific GAT, generic attribute fields of the Bluetooth protocol. But in this case, I do not really want in this case to go on the specific. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So I think the key message there is come and have a chat with us. If there's something that you need, then we are here for you.
Okay, so thank you. Then another one is, can the ADT 551 publish data to my own server, or do I need to use Telit's?
I think I said that in the presentation. So essentially, it's configurable. So whilst we publish to our DeviceWise platform, it is just an MQTT datagram, and you can configure the ATD 551 to publish this to any MQTT server. So they're pretty widespread. You probably have one of your own. You don't have to use DeviceWise. We've built the service so that you can, but you don't need to. You can publish it to your own.
Then the next question is, how can this CMB 100 approach avoid to pass certification or even reduce time of certification as no antenna is attached to the board?
So that's an interesting one. So there are a number of companies out there who make similar devices, and really it's more for the US market. And what you find in the approvals declaration as an end device certified product, the certification body will have essentially mandated specific requirements of the antenna. So they'll say that the VSWR can't be any greater than 2:1. The gain can't be any greater than 3 dBi. There's going to be a bunch of requirements, meaning that ultimately the antenna is not possible of radiating more energy than the specification or the approvals for that device allows. So as long as you sit within the confines, and we're going to be creating documentation around what you need to do as an integrator in order to meet the specifications. In the end, you should be able to use any off-the-shelf antenna solution. I think Rutronik, you guys have got 2J, right? You should be able to go and buy a 2J antenna from Rutronik that meets that specification, and then ultimately just reuse the end device certification in the USA. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thank you. Then the other one is also regarding the CMB 100 RDK. Have you planned to make it compatible with Nordic MCUs, SoC, for example, also if this is also compatible with microbit ecosystem?
Fabio, do you want to take that one?
Yes, let me answer this. The development kit is not, I will say, meant for use it extensively. This is, as Adam said, something like a naked terminal that we use a microcontroller on its own. But we really want to give the focus in this forum to the CMB 100 device. The microcontroller is an add-on that is used for the rapid prototyping in the kit, but really you can use whatever microcontroller you want. And you can use the classic USB or serial ports to provide for example, the AT commands to the CMB100 the very same way you normally do with the modules. But if there are additional questions, again, we are happy to hear what is exactly the idea.
So then let's go to the next one. Where do I get the accessories from?
Rutronik, of course.
Yeah. Just come back to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Later I will show this also my contact details and also our different web pages where you can get, or just contact our Rutronik sales agent. So yeah, get into direct contact with us. Then
sorry,
yeah?
Luisa, can I interrupt you one moment? Just to be precise here, Telit Cinterion supplies specifically for the terminals already a power supply that is compatible. But of course, if you wanted to have your own cable that is connected to your power source, you can, of course, use the specification and realize it. All the rest, including cable, connectors, antennas, of course, you can find Rutronik or other distributors, I think, for the cable, but for the antennas, for sure.
There are no other distributors, Fabio.
Yeah, just Rutronik.
That's what it is. Yeah, that's Rutronik.
Okay, so the next one. Can I get it in a different color or with some customizations to the software, hardware?
Yeah, anything's possible. Okay, it's a question of time and money. So yes, we have done customizations on our terminals. We've done customizations for distribution customers. So maybe it's you need bright orange isn't your color, and you want something a little less discreet, or maybe you want something even less discreet, more discreet. So whatever it is you need, if you've got I think, Fabio, what sort of volumes are we talking about on these terminals that would be, essentially warrant us being able to address something like a customization? How many units do you think we're talking about?
Depends on the kind of customization. Yeah. Some of them, namely the software inside, is easier to obtain, but of course, it can be in the range of several thousands. For anything that is on the enclosure, normally the mechanical change are by far requesting some 10,000s of devices.
Yeah. For mechanical changes, color changes, maybe not so many, but yeah. Mechanical changes. Yeah, because I think for one customer we had to remove some little lugs, didn't we? Because the box wouldn't fit in their final product. So there were some lugs on our terminal. They just needed those removed. They didn't fancy hacksawing them off of 10,000 units. So we did a small modification to the enclosure for them. But that was, as I say, it was a relatively good volume opportunity.
Yes, correct. And in any case, at IoT Solutions, we have not only the partners, but also the internal resources in the unit to examine and evaluate what are the changes proposed. And we can, of course, transform a standard into a semi-custom very easily. Or even, just to be clear for the audience, in a full custom for a full ODM product. But in this case, of course, the volumes are the ones are higher, are for a full project. But for the semi-custom, we are very flexible.
Thank you. So then another one, we have quite a few. With RS232, it is an AT command, what to use with Ethernet as interface.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so with RS232, you as everybody knows who's got grey hair, RS232 is typically a hyperterminal AT command interface type approach. From your MCU, you can drive it with an 8051 over RS232 with a logic shifter. For the LAN interface, the device requires some kind of host controller system. So this would need to be a Linux or a Windows or an Android, but something that has a Ethernet host type system available and the software subsystem to be able to support Ethernet devices. So, you know, I think there are some MCUs out there that can support Ethernet. Certainly you can interface that to these devices if you really want to go down that route and do a bare metal, but the majority of clients are using Windows or Linux or Android based systems and interfacing the LAN through that way.
Thank you. Then next one, what opportunity size is good for terminals?
Doesn't need to be big. So, you know, the collective Rutronik, you know, there are customers out there who are buying 50 pieces at a time, customers out there that are buying 1,000 pieces at a time. The beauty about terminals is that they don't come on tape and reel. They're not in hermetically sealed boxes. These devices are designed to be used in lower volumes than typically a module would be. Modules really do find their place when you're talking about 30, 50, 100K units. Terminals really find their place when you're talking about hundreds of devices a year, thousands off, maybe up to 10,000. It's rare to get above 10,000 terminals a year for a client. Most people would then start looking at a module solution, or at least a CMB 100 type solution, maybe ahead of that. So hopefully that answers, it doesn't need to be crazy volumes, that's for sure.
Then does certification remain if terminal embeds customer's application using IoT SDK?
Yes, 100%. So the cellular modem architecture, which generally is Qualcomm based from us, has a Cortex A7 processor inside. And what you get inside that processor is compartmentalized code space for the modem and for the Telit Cinterion firmware. And then you've got the application hosting capability. And this typically finds itself inside what's called a sandbox environment. And what that means is that you can write an application with impunity to run inside that within the confines and boundaries of what are provided. So you will have a finite amount of flash and RAM processing capability that you physically can't exceed. So there's no way of influencing the baseband controller firmware in a negative way from within that sandbox. So any approvals, any regulatory or M&O are completely unaffected by whatever software you're running inside that sandbox.
Then the second last one, like, must I use the approved antennas or can I select my one?
Fabio, do you want to take that one?
But I think that we already answered this question. Yeah. So in fact, you can, first of all, you can select every kind of antenna. It fits your own use case. You might have a magnetic antenna with 5 meters cable because you really need to remotize whatever, or you can have a stick antenna just plug outside of the connector of the terminal. What I think that Adam is mentioning or mentioned was what are the conditions that you have to respect in order to maintain the certification specifically for the regulatory. In this case, there are antennas that are suggested specifically for the CMB 100 at a pre-certified module level, and then you can use this and you can have the certification maintained. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you. And then the last one, do I need to get any approvals before going to market with the terminals or as CMB 100?
So when it comes to regulatory, for the US markets, and as long as you essentially integrate the product within the confines of the end device certification, which will be published, the answer is no. You won't need to go through any additional regulatory approvals. That being said, if your device contains an incredibly powerful transmitter, something which maybe could invalidate the approvals of a device, maybe. It's very rare. There's always exceptions. The best bet is to consult with us when it comes to what it is you're actually trying to do, and then we can guide you in the best possible way, through Rutronik, of course, in what device to use, what certifications you may need in the end. Maybe there'll be a Delta certification. Maybe, you know, you want to integrate it with a Wi-Fi device or a Bluetooth device or something else. Maybe there'll be a small additional certification required, but certainly not the barrage of approvals that you would ordinarily have to go through. That's for sure. So it's a bit wishy-washy. Sorry about that. But it is very, very use case dependent.
Okay, so thank you, Adam and Fabio. So that have been all the questions. So thanks for the presentation. Thank you all for the participation and for listening. Yeah, you can, as I already said, get into direct contact with me or fill out our contact form. And of course, please have a look at our homepage as well as our Rutronik 24 web shop and on the tech.com web page where we write articles about the latest product launches of our suppliers. And now just a little teaser for tomorrow's last webinar with Nordic Semiconductor. It's about the topic DECT NR+, the world's first non-cellular 5G standard. So yeah, feel free to register. We share the slides later with you, where you can also where you can see the QR codes. Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Cheers.
Bye
Ciao.
bye. Bye bye.